Hi everyone, I apologize that this is not necessarily in the right format, but this is what we're working with today. We have a few minutes before foster baby's appointment, and so I figured I would tell you about my NICU journey. The reason that I wanted to do this is because when I was actually in the hospital at 26 weeks with my last baby, it was number 4, and I had severe preeclampsia. I watched everyone's NICU journey, no matter who they were or what their channel was or what their lifestyle was, anything, because I just wanted to know what it was like, how it happened, was their baby okay, just all the things. So I thought I would share kind of my story and what we went through. It is a little bit traumatic looking back and talking about it, but hopefully it will bring you some peace and comfort, or at least you'll know what kind of to expect. Not that there is an easy way to walk through it. That is one thing that I learned having a NICU baby, is it is so much more difficult than you can kind of imagine. So my journey started at, like I said, 26 weeks. I was in the hospital for severely high blood pressure. It wasn't technically diagnosed as preeclampsia at this point, even though my protein urine count was above 200. So depending on what other doctors I've talked to, it probably should have been diagnosed as preeclampsia at that point. But the reason I was stuck in the hospital is because the baby was not getting enough fluid. And so the amniotic fluid in my stomach was very, very low on the ultrasound, which is scary because obviously it can, that's how they drink and do all the things that they need to do. And so at that point, it was really just a waiting game. Like, how far can you make it before something bad happens, or before, I don't know, which is really stressful as a mom. So they sent me home after a few days on blood pressure medication and said, just monitor it yourself, and then come back in for ultrasounds every couple of weeks to make sure the fluid level is going up, or at least not going down farther. And it was really crazy. So I did that for about 4 weeks, I would say, and I knew I was getting worse. Like, my body, my heart, my everything was struggling. But we were in Alabama at the time, and the doctors, I got pushed around between doctors and trying to re-explain, and really they honestly don't take you seriously, as what I've found as a general rule. It's like, oh well, some of this is just normal pregnancy, right? Headaches, dehydration, seeing spots, whatever. But I was also seeing a high risk person, doctor, specialist, through Zoom. It was the weirdest thing. So I would go into the hospital, they would check my blood pressure, and then do an ultrasound, and then I would talk to some lady through the computer. Praise the Lord that the lady I talked to when I was about 31 weeks pregnant through the computer, and I was like, listen, I am seeing spots, my head hurts, I am dealing with all these different things, right? What do I do? And she was like, well, and then eventually she was like, it's fine, we're just gonna send you up to labor and delivery and have you admitted. And I was like, oh, okay. So now we've been kind of just ignoring all these things, and now we're gonna take them seriously. She's like, we'll just do your urine count again, we'll do all the different things. So I went up so that they could start the shots, because one of the things they want to do is do 2 steroid shots for the baby's lungs to develop as much as they can. And so that was probably the craziest couple days of my life. I had gotten to the point where I was so swollen I could hardly move, I could hardly breathe, I couldn't see anymore because the swelling in my brain was so bad. They weren't even sure if I was having a stroke. I believe I was tested with some sort of CT scan at some point. I was on magnesium and all these drugs. And if you want to hear my crazy actual birth story with the tornado and stuff, you can check the my little shorts, because I put that one in there. But it was just absolute madness. And then finally we made it to the baby being born, and he was born, and within 30 seconds They had him out. I heard him cry for a second. They said, "Look, this is your baby," as they were walking him out the door. And then I was still on bed rest for a full 24 hours because of the amount of magnesium that I had in my system. And honestly, it was so much magnesium that I'm about 18 months postpartum, and my joints and stuff still hurt. And they say that's from the amount of magnesium that they put in my body. So I still have a lot of like morning stiffness and pain. But again, it's all that magnesium. I'm sorry, I'm moving my camera slowly and slowly. And it does like distort the angle. It makes my forehead look really big. But this is why normal people have fancy tripods. What was I saying? Oh yeah. Anyway, so my NICU journey started when they rushed him out of the room. I was stuck on bed rest, still attached to the bed, hadn't moved in days, hadn't been able to eat in days. And my husband was able to go see him in the NICU after they got him stabilized. He did have to be put on oxygen. They called and said, "Hey, you know, your baby's on oxygen." They also said at a different point, like, "Hey, he has a couple brain bleeds," which is like, what? But they're like, "That's normal. We just don't normally check babies, but supposedly it's normal. We're just going to monitor it." And it's like, okay, that seems extreme, but sure. And the doctors would just call and check in, and then my husband would go over there. He spent a total of 21 days, about 22 if you count the overnight that they make you do at the end, to prove that you can take care of him in the NICU. And honestly, he probably would have spent more. One thing I can tell you is be an advocate for your baby, for your child, because the nurses in the NICU kind of, not all of them, some of the young ones were like on top of it, but I did find that some of the older nurses just were very numb to the fact that the babies were even crying. There was one baby who all he had to do, he was big, he was like 8 pounds at that point. All he had to do was take his feeding in the night, right? And I would, because I was there pretty much anytime they were open, I would listen to the nurse not feed this baby while he cried. And he would cry for 20, 25 minutes. And then she'd get over there finally, try and give him his bottle. And she was like, "Oh, he's just too tired to sleep." And while he was crying for that 25 minutes, he'd be like, "Oh, you're just so spoiled. Your mama holds you too much. You're just too spoiled. I'll be there in a minute." And they would just take their dear sweet time and not comfort the baby. And it was really just scarring. And so then I was there even more, as much as I could possibly be. My in-laws got me a hotel in town because we lived 30 minutes from the hospital, so that I could try and be there early in the morning, late at night. My body was still so swollen I could hardly walk. I couldn't fit into any of my clothes. I had to go to like Target and buy oversized sweatpants just so that I could make it to and from the hospital and hobble in and out through security, through all the things. They do have a lot of security. They do make you wash your phone, wash your everything. Some points they don't want you to take pictures. They can kick you out at any point. It's a really hard way to visit your baby, but if you're not, your baby's not necessarily getting the attention that it needs. And just so you know, I did talk to that doctor and told him that the nurses weren't feeding him during the night until after he had already cried himself to exhaustion. And then they're like, "Oh, well, he's just too tired to eat." And I did explain that. And so he let the parents stay overnight with him for 2 days to prove that. And guess what? That baby went home right away. He could eat during the night when his mom was there to grab him right away. So it does matter. Advocate for your child. Advocate for the other children in the NICU. Note that it'll be all consuming in your time and your effort and your energy. And the good news is eventually he did go home and he was okay. And he is okay now. The only problem that we had is he's had a little bit of a motor delay, but that's okay because he's in physical therapy and his hand-eye coordination is phenomenal. It's at like 2.5 years old when he was tested. So we're doing super great in some categories and we're not doing so great in others, but it's okay. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Hopefully I covered the basics of my NICU stay. I'm happy to help. You can leave them in the comments. And I hope you have a blessed day. And if you are going through it, know that you're not alone, that there's lots of mamas out there who have gone through the same thing, and you can make it through.